tell me what you learned about how to listen.
Wow. All right. So actually listening as opposed to staying silent, it accelerates the process. And you need a set of tools to keep you on track, to dig into the information without the other side feeling interrogated. And that was really what I learned way back when on the hotline. I get there first day, we get into the training. And I remember the thing that struck me first was they said, all right, your calls are limited to 20 minutes. And I remember thinking like, what, 20 minutes? You got to be kidding me. Like, on TV, they're on the phone with people for hours, if not days. 20 minutes. And they said, no, as a matter of fact, if you actually use the skills correctly, it'll take less than that. And so you get taught a set of listening skills on how to dial in and the clues of what to listen for, and then how to get the person interacting with you without making them feel interrogated. And suddenly there were astonishing changes in behavior in the person on the other side. You get somebody on the phone who's genuinely suicidal. And 15, 17, 18 minutes later, they're in a good place and they're ready to go back and take on the world based on the experience. So, and then I started learning some of the science after it, science, pseudoscientists. I'm a layman, I'm not a scientist. But in our capacity to hear words exceeds the amount of information we can keep in our head. But the amount of information in your tone of voice is going to tell me more than the words are. So how I learned to listen was the words are the starting point, but the tone of voice and the body language and what's the alignment. And then if there's a shift in the alignment in that moment, to look for it and then anticipate. I know now that you as a human being, you in general terms, the negativity is going to cloud your thinking more than anything else. So I'm listening for those negatives. And from the hotline, and now what we do in a Black Swan method, how do I deactivate those negatives to clear your head or even anticipate them? So it's applied emotional intelligence. And then why listen? Because what we would call in hostage negotiation, a change of behavior, and in business negotiation or personal interactions, you changing your mind as to the best outcome is going to come much more quickly and effectively and in a lasting way than if I talked you into it or if I misled you. I want whatever agreement we come to be durable, to last, without me having to come back to you daily to see where we are. And that's what listening is really about, understanding the nuances of what's now backed up by neuroscience and what people in hostage negotiation and you as a practitioner in the field of human nature for years came to learn was the reality of how human beings think and how they react.
Yeah, well, you said you want to negotiate a durable solution, and that means one that will sustain itself without you having to come back. And so you could put it this way, barring, you can become a micromanager because you have a certain obsessiveness of character, let's say, and a certain intrinsic distrust. And then that's something you should work on. But you can also become a micromanager if you negotiate a very bad agreement with someone. Because if you've talked them into it or forced them into it, and they feel that they've been taken advantage of, then their heart won't be in the task. And what that will mean is that they will be looking for escape routes all the time instead of doing what they're supposed to be doing, and that you'll have to go back to them in the most frustrating of manners and use up all your valuable time and energy trying to enforce a stupid agreement that you shouldn't have made to begin with. And this is part of the problem. You said, you don't want to talk someone into something. Right. Now, that's not the same as informing them about an opportunity that they might not have conceptualized and laying out a different route. But really what you're aiming for is voluntary agreement, like full voluntary agreement. And right. Part of the reason, and you touched on this, part of the reason that listening is so necessary is because if you listen to the person, you can find out and help them find out what it is that they actually want and how that could conceivably be delivered to them. And, you might think the person already knows that, but it's not necessarily the case. People think, well, they're talking. And in fact, that's how most people think, period, is when they're talking. And it also means if no one's listening to them, they almost never have an opportunity to think. You could imagine, like, even if you're running a restaurant, I shouldn't say even, it's very difficult to run a restaurant. If you're running a restaurant, you're hiring a dishwasher. One of the things you're going to be concerned about is whether that kid is going to show up to work, because absenteeism in entry-level jobs like dishwashing is rife, and the probability that the guy won't show up is pretty high, and so that drives restaurateurs mad. So what you want to find out from the dishwasher, at least in principle, is how can we get you here 15 minutes early every day? It's got to be a serious question. It's like, I want you to think about this for a minute. You're 15, let's say, you got your entry-level dishwasher job. It's like, under what conditions would you be pleased enough to come to this workplace so that you actually come? And what impediments can you imagine that might arise? And how can we set the situation up so that that probability is decreased? And that is all. You want to know from the kid what he thinks might sideline him so that you can circumvent it if possible. And obviously the same thing applies as you scale up the sophistication of the negotiations. How can we make this work? That's a good guideline for a successful negotiation, not how can I come out of this ahead? That's such a stupid way of looking at a situation because it's so temporary, right? If I screw you over while we're talking because I'm better at verbally manipulating you, and I think you won't take that out on me opportunity by opportunity as we move forward into the future, I'm an absolute bloody damn fool.
Exactly. Yeah, you're going to take it out on me. You're going to look for outs, or even when problems arise, you're just going to keep silent. You're like, you know what? I know people will hurt you by doing nothing, and you don't want that to happen either.
The Black Swan technique that you referred to, tell me about that.
Well, it's a collection of the emotional intelligence skills that started with hostage negotiation. There were 8 FBI hostage negotiation skills. And I came out thinking like, there's some adaptability here. After I went through the Kennedy School, I was lucky enough, I got into Harvard Law School's negotiation course as a student when I was an FBI agent. And I worked with some brilliant people there, Sheila Heen, Doug Stone, Bob Mnookin, Bob Bordone, brilliant people. And I just did my hostage negotiation thing when I was going through the course. And they said to me, you're doing the same thing we are. The stakes are different, but the dynamics are the same. So I thought, all right, so I'll use these. FBI called them active listening skills. Harvard called them active listening skills. We had made them very definable, very practical, very usable. Because when you're teaching skills to cops, if it's not usable and practical and clear, like you get booed off the stage fast. They want practical stuff. And when Harvard really gave me the green light, like this stuff works, I started teaching at Georgetown afterwards. My son Brandon was a critical part of the development of those skills. And we just took the 8 skills. We got them 9 now. We made some slight tweaks in some of the thoughts as we applied them to business and personal life. But it's a collection of emotional intelligence, tactical empathy skills that work because of the way human beings are wired worldwide. They work on the limbic system, which is the emotional components, the circuitry, the wiring in the brain that everybody has by virtue of the fact that they're human. And it pretty much operates the same, regardless of gender, ethnicity, religion, geography, diet, because you're human.